Innovation is in our veins. Soon the whole world will know our names. Sharing our knowledge and freedom reign. We here for the people, you know it's our way. Setting foundations is part of the dream. It doesn't matter if you're new to the game. Listen up now, cause we all gon' say, elevate, 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 higher, elevate, 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 higher. We gon' rise up, we all gon' shine. Work through adversity, stay on the grind. Elevate, elevate, this is our time. Elevate, elevate.
Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, everyone. It's so great to have you all on one more time. It's your boy Josh.
And Reg.
And we're grateful to be back on with you yet again. It's been a weird week. We got some stuff to talk about. Obviously, let's just talk about the big elephant in the room, or the big SS elephant in the room. The fact our whole parliament cheered and applauded a man who fought against us in World War II and fought on the side of Adolf Hitler. Yeah, and that, my friends, is not an exaggeration. That literally happened in our parliament. God bless. I'm so happy to be in this country. Thank goodness that our forefathers fought for our freedom in World War II against the Nazis. But, we out here. We got that to talk about. Formally, because of that incident, we have now members of parliament who are now asking the Speaker of the House to step down. And then, on top of that, obviously, more of our tax money going over to Ukraine, $650 million to be exact. And last but not least, we're going to have some fun and talk about the G20 and the new plans they've unveiled regarding digital currency and how it's official. It's coming. Here we go. Hey, Rich, how you feeling, big dog?
I'm doing good. I mean, it's funny because I was talking to you, I was talking to another friend of mine, and he was like sending stuff to me all day today. He was just like blowing up my phone with it. And it's just wild. Everything that's happening right now, everything's happening on Twitter right now, going on about all these topics and more. Like, it's just, everything's in chaos. And it's like, I'm kind of loving it a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I thrive in chaos, but yeah, it's just laughable is what it is, because I feel like I'm watching the same people who were like, there were Nazi flags in Ottawa during this march that just recently happened. And then they're also the same people going, well, you realize not all SS members are the same. It's like, what? What are you saying right now? Like, what? No.
Welcome to the gong show that is this country and politics right now.
Right.
Absolutely. We talked about it before the show. This is the point. Okay, before I start to express my feelings, here's what actually happened. So we have Mr. Zelensky who's paying us a visit, looking for more money, doing his campaign, looking for, doing some pitches, doing his elevator pitch. Give us more money. And so that's what he's doing. He's doing his rounds. And then they all of a sudden brought in a war veteran who happened to be in the House of Commons, along with Zelensky and Trudeau and everybody else. And they said, this man fought against the Soviets in World War II for Ukraine. And then everyone cheered and applauded, like, yes. And then,
but wasn't it like it was a standing O that he got?
Oh yeah, absolute standing ovation. The thing that frustrated me about it was this happened, and it just showed me that no one in this room has done any history or knows any history. Because if any point someone said, yes, this man fought against the Soviets in World War II, I'm like, from what I remember, the Soviets were fighting against the Nazis. Why would he be fighting against the Soviets if they were fighting? Like, can you do some math, please? Like, holy smokes. We're so caught up in this anti-Russia rhetoric that we just forgetting what's happened in the past 100 years.
Yep.
Absolute morons who run this country, dude. Absolute morons.
And it was wild because it was so good that my wife, who was like, I don't touch politics. That's not my jazz. I am, I am a healthcare girl and I am going to stay in that lane. And I'm like, that's cool. Like, if that's where you're at, that's good. I've got enough politics for the both of us. And she's like, don't they have people that should be like, the oversight for like things like this? So before they bring them in, that everybody knows, and that's something that, is known. And I was like, you would think. And she's like, that just seems odd. Like, why would they? And I was like, welcome to politics in Canada. Like,
the absolute gong show it is. I 100% think and absolutely believe Trudeau knew. He had to know. And the reason why is he thought he could get away with it because again, we want to keep pitching this whole, like, he's desperate for people that hate Russia and us keep giving money to Ukraine. He's so desperate to get all Canadians on board with this. So what else can we do? Oh, this guy fought against the Russians. And that's the annoying part. He fought against Russia in World War II.
Yeah.
Like, that tells you everything you need to know about these people, man. Not just our politicians are saying this. CBC was saying this too. Oh yeah, he fought against Russia in World War II. I'm like, Russia wasn't a thing. Mm-hmm. Like, you absolute morons. I'm just so done. Like, I'm at my wit's end with the people who run this country. They don't know what they're doing. Sean Fraser, you're a Nazi. Let's leave it at that. Okay? All of you, Nazis, we're going to use your ideas and the people that you continue to support against you. Anything that even remotely kind of sounds a little right wing, all of a sudden, Nazi. Everybody on the convoy, Nazis. So guess what? Sean Fraser and every other Liberal MP, Nazis. You're all Nazis.
Oh my God.
Gee, that's where we're going with this one.
Man, it's wild right now. It's just, and it is what we were talking about earlier, where it's just like, you can't have any kind of divergent ideology whatsoever, because suddenly now you are the most evil person on the planet. And the problem is that people don't care anymore because people are hurting. People are not being able to stay in their homes. They're losing their jobs. They can't afford gas. They can't afford the groceries. Just living and existing is expensive. I actually was sitting down about 30 minutes ago with a person who is a medical doctor, and he was talking about the fact that homelessness is nuts in BC. And he said, moving to Nova Scotia, he's like, I'm watching the precursor to what happened in BC. He's like, I was here years ago. He's like, we never had tent cities. I was like, I know. I said, things have just gotten so hard. And he's like, I interview people on the streets in BC. He's like, they're not all a bunch of addicts that, ended up on the streets. He's like, these are people who lost their jobs, couldn't afford their mortgages anymore, were frequenting the soup kitchen until the point where they couldn't afford to even do that anymore. And they just lost it all and they ended up on the street. And then they're trying to numb and medicate with opioids. And he's like, it's a complete crisis of the breakdown of our community and the breakdown of affordability and the breakdown of like any kind of structure. And I'm looking at this going, yes, that's what happens. And we need to actually have some corrective action from the top. And you can't do anything about that because everybody's throwing at these distractions and being like, let's talk about that for 10 minutes.
Totally.
And give standing ovations to Nazis. Like, it's just nuts. Like, that is the rhetoric that we're dealing with. And I just find it wild. Even when I just think about the people who are so progressive, it's like, where is your march for the homeless? Where is your march for the hungry? Where is your march for the people who've been left behind? There is none. And it just seems like, and when you draw attention to that, it's like, yeah, okay, cool. It's like, why? Why is that where we're at? And it's really, really frustrating. And it's funny because I seem to see when you have a conservative government, like, for example, in Ontario, when they made a really bad move, they got called out on it. They got it was bad. Like, they were trying to sell off the Greenbelt. Suddenly they reversed the decision and everybody's like, okay, they reversed it. I watched Tim Houston do the same thing. One of the comments he made about people not being able to live on minimum wage, went out, apologized for it, actually meant it, did something about it. Like, why aren't the Liberals doing the same thing if they're so progressive? Instead, you get this pretzel effect where people are like literally just being like, no, it's different. Like, you gotta look through a different lens and blah, blah, blah. It's like, just admit that you screwed up, say that you're wrong, and commit to doing better, and actually follow through with that. Because I feel like right now what we're getting is people screwing up royally, hiding it, trying to get their base to then support it in some absurd way. Like, this idea that like not all SS Nazis were bad. And like, no, I'm sorry, that's a cut and dry. You're bad. Like, that's wrong. Sorry, don't agree with you. And supporting this, and then you get these leaders that are just like, yeah, it's okay. And then our fearless leader, Trudeau, hides from question period today.
Yeah.
Nowhere to be found. Like, are you freaking kidding me? What does that sound like? I don't know. Maybe the trucker convoy where he was nowhere to be found. Maybe in the midst of COVID, and when he decided to take a trip to Tofino, nowhere to be found. When the indigenous population was blocking railroads and crying out for clean drinking water on their reserves, nowhere to be found. It's like he's the biggest scaredy cat and coward that I've ever seen in Canadian politics. And then I just don't get it when I have so many good people in my life on the left. They're just like, yeah, well, Pierre Poilievre. I was like, no, we're not talking about Pierre Poilievre. We're talking about Trudeau right now. And it's embarrassing and he needs to go. Because right now, like, people are hungry, people are starving, people are fed up, and we're being embarrassed on the world stage right now. Like, everyone's talking about this.
Absolute joke. And you're right. Like, when this first started coming out, I first heard about these from right-leaning independent journalists on TikTok. This dig up. The first thing I saw was Dan Schneider. Robert Schneider. Dan Schneider's the wrong guy. Robert Schneider freaking out on Twitter, just like all caps, angry. I was like, why is this guy so angry? What happened? I was unaware of what was going on at the time. And then I started digging into it. I was like, wow, this is a new low for Canada. I couldn't believe it. And I started seeing more like kind of these right-leaning independent journalists coming out and talking about it. And I wasn't seeing a dang thing from any of the mainstream journalists whatsoever until it got too much to ignore. Mm-hmm. Then they started having to acknowledge it. That's when I just had it. Like, I'm just shaking my head. Let's talk about this. Shaking my head. Bruce Arthur. Bruce Arthur is a Toronto Star columnist. Father of four, we can be good, but we're going to make it. DMs are open from the Star. This is what he had to say. The basic dynamic of Canadian politics right now is the Liberals celebrated a Nazi through incredible incompetence. 7 months after some Conservatives celebrated a Nazi completely on purpose.
What?
Mm-hmm. Want to know what he's talking about?
I like the first comment, though. Lol, nice try.
Yeah. He's talking about this. When the three Conservative MPs who met with a far-right German politician with Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, says 3 members of his party who met with a German politician from a far-right party. That's what they're comparing this to.
No.
Pretty sure actual Nazis aren't allowed in Germany, period.
No.
She's just right-leaning. But let's just paint her as far-right. That's what I'm talking about. All of the homies. Andy Fillmore, what? Derek Fisher, what? Sean Fraser, what? All of you guys. This is who you people continue to support. Is this type of ideology, if anything even remotely right-leaning, is Nazi, is fascist. And so, am I crazy for if we're going to use that standard, if that's your standard, calling you a Nazi sympathizer? Am I out of line for saying that and calling you that to that standard, Sean Fraser? Justin Trudeau? Derek Fisher? Andy Fillmore? Am I out of line holding you to that type of standard? Of course I am, because we only play by other people's rules, not your own.
It's just frustrating because it's like, here are people with a divergent ideology than you have. You know what? Maybe some of their ideas are actually bad. I'll give you that. Like, maybe they have some legitimately bad ideas. They didn't fight to eliminate and exterminate 6 million people.
Oh, what?
Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not Nazis. Like, it's so frustrating because it's like, I feel like this is just thrown around all the time. It's like when people back were using racist as like the way to kind of like knock people down. It's like, oh, you're racist. And I feel like now it's Nazi is the word. It's like, oh no, you're a Nazi. And like, it's so infuriating because it's like, no, they're not. They didn't fight in World War II. They didn't put people in prison camps. They didn't exterminate an entire group of people. Like, they have a different ideology than you have. That doesn't make them a Nazi. Then you have a legitimate, actual Nazi like,
in the House of Commons.
In the House of Commons, and people are like, no, it's not like that.
It's like, different. I swear,
it was an accident. You know, like, how did they get in here? Like, no. Like,
yeah, and I think the thing about this whole story too is the fact that we have all of the MPs who all gave a standing O. And we're highlighting people who are in power, but every MP stood up. There was no exception on this one.
Yep.
Because everyone is so afraid from looking bad and actually standing on their own 2 feet, Pierre Poilievre included on this one.
Yep.
That I guess we'll all just clap like the seals clap and see how this all goes. And then you make a terrible distinction. And from The Guardian, it says Canada's House Speaker apologizes after praising Ukrainian veteran of Nazi unit. Canada's become embroiled in an escalating political controversy after members of its House of Commons were encouraged to join in a standing O for an individual who fought in Ukraine with a Nazi military unit accused of war crimes during the Second World War. Images from the Canadian Parliament showed Zelensky and the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau standing and applauding Hunka in scenes condemned by Jewish groups as lawmakers cheered. Zelensky raised his fist in acknowledgement as Hunka saluted from the gallery during 2 separate standing ovations.
Yeah.
Not once, not twice. Did twice. And so because of this, we now have the NDP, who's come in the House of Commons today, asking for the speaker to step down. Because technically, if we're looking at roles on a sheet, yes, it's on the House Speaker to make sure that it's on him to see who they're praising, who they're not.
Yeah.
It technically is. Honestly,
the buck stops with them.
Yeah. The ownership has to go with them. But this is just distractions from the Jagmeet Singh party saying, technically it really isn't our fault. We're just following orders.
Yeah. That's not my department.
Yeah, they're gonna push that over here. And so now they're asking for this guy to step down. I'm not really here or there on the decision. I'm just more so focused on the lack of ownership from people who want to be leading this country and leading the constituents, but they don't want to take any ownership of this.
Yeah.
It's a joke.
I honestly, I'm glad you brought it up too, the fact that like every MP stood up, because like I think that's the big thing too, is that like we're not here to promote one side over the other. We're here to promote common sense and the fact that you should govern a country the way that the people want it to be governed, because you are a representative. You're not a parent, you're a representative. And so therefore you should represent the people. And if the people don't want this kind of thing, then you don't support it. And very clearly from both sides, Nazis aren't supported in the Canadian public. And so the fact that, that everybody stood and clapped, like that to me says a lot about the state of democracy in this country. And it's like when people talk about not voting and things like that, I understand it. I'm fervently against it, because I think that you need to vote, even if you go and spoil your ballot, where you just take your ballot, you put a big black X over it and you say, I'm unhappy, because they count that. They actually count that, and they look at how many ballots have been spoiled. Like, even if you do that, like just show that there's so much distaste and disdain actually for our political parties, because that was embarrassing. And the fact that nobody from any party got up and was like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be clapping the Nazi like here. This is not good. It's what you said. It's seals clapping for the fish. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make any sense. And like I said, I have no tears for the House Speaker if he gets kicked out and canned, like whatever. He's probably stupidly wealthy anyway. Don't know how much money he has. Maybe Trudeau gave him a mansion. Who knows? He's been giving those out recently. So I have no tears shed for the House Speaker. But I go back to Jen's simple question, my wife. Who thought this was a good idea? Like, who didn't say, hey, maybe we should think about this for a second? Also, what was the process? Like when Zelensky said, hey, I'm bringing a person in to come to speak to the House of Commons, and they were like, yeah, sure, just bring whoever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, did they not vet that and say, okay, what is this person's background? Do they represent the ideals of Canada? Like, what is their history? Like, you know what I mean? There's so much that should have happened there. And I wonder, did it? Because like, can anybody just walk into the House of Commons and get up in front of everybody and get, a standing ovation? I mean, let's go. Let's get on our plane. Like I need some love.
Absolutely. And I think that's kind of more so where the concern lies, where there's just a lack of just oversight, lack of ownership, lack of essentially just just seems like people just don't care. Is
Yeah.
how it feels. And so with all that as our backdrop, oh, sorry, you want to say something?
I don't want to beat this dead horse too much, but
Beat it.
I want to know what did our person there, RG, have to say about this? Did you see anything?
Dude, she actually had a really good tweet about it.
Really?
I was personally surprised. I wasn't going to bring it up, but I will now.
Yeah.
Because I was honestly kind of impressed, considering.
You know what though? That's the thing. It's like I'm not gonna just write somebody off entirely. Like even a broken clock is right twice a day. So, but
she made a really good point. Let me see if I can just pull it up here. Oh yeah, she's been going off about it.
Because I know the big controversy the previous week, which I didn't think would get topped. So the big controversy previously was the fact that Pierre Poilievre, in his apology or condolences, it was, when he was trying to pronounce one of the names, it came out sounding like the N-word. And everybody lost their marbles over that. And so one of the things that this journalist had done was actually post it to Twitter. And they were like, oh, but it's not a big deal. It's just a bad slip up. Ha ha ha. And then like everybody in the comments was like roasting it, being like, okay, well then why are you still serving this nothing sandwich then?
Yeah,
and I
seriously.
Loved it. But
this is what she had to say about it. She actually retweeted the Speaker of the House, and she said, "This is a dangerous level of incompetence. Do these folks not know how to use Google? Nah, let's not bother Googling the guy. We'll just risk handing Russia some fresh propaganda on a silver platter instead."
Oh, damn, girl. You mic dropped that one.
Yeah, well, I'm like, oh my god, like she, like, as much as we're not huge fans of her, like that's as you said, a broken clock is right twice a day, and I think that was a great point. And she just kept going on. Yeah,
18 hours ago. You think that the Canadian government would have a vetting process for this?
Russia demands answers from Canada. So this is from the Russian news website. Russia demands answers from Canada over praise for Nazi SS veteran, and here we go. It's just happening. Like we knew this was gonna. Like you just like. Yeah. Not only are you, like, obviously getting Russia all fired up over this, which is, who needs more of that?
Yeah.
But you're also completely lost everybody in Canada over this.
Yeah.
We definitely didn't want our money going to Ukraine constantly already. We definitely don't want it now.
Yeah.
So with this being the backdrop, do you think Trudeau's going to be, like, whether he wants to or not, do you think he's, like, his own party's going to force him out? Because there's no way he's getting reelected.
I don't know. I honestly don't know because, I think that I don't know what kind of power he wields over that party, but it just seems like he can do anything and they support him. Mm-hmm. Like, and anybody who says anything against it, like I called to the other week about like Jody Wilson-Raybould, Jane Philpott, like saying like, this is wrong. We're going to get caught in a scandal. Don't do this. And he was like, "Oh, see ya." So I just like, I don't know. Like, are people just too scared to say anything to the fearless leader that they're going to get kicked out and they're going to lose their cushy spot if they say anything? And so everybody remains quiet, kind of like bystander effect in classic psychology. Like, is that what's happening? I don't know. Maybe.
Well,
but
we've seen already, based on the past 24 hours, that these people will say and do whatever they want, do whatever they need to keep their job. So there is zero integrity within the House of Commons on Parliament Hill. There's zero integrity. There's no one there with any integrity. So of course, and anyone who has had any integrity has been booted out of their party. So there you go.
Boo. It's just like that. That's super depressing, but it's like, what do you do? What do you do with that?
Yeah.
Because it's just, I don't know. It's frustrating. And I guess it just comes to the point where, we have to vote differently, have to vote strategically, unfortunately, and just like hope that whoever gets in there next is going to be at least miles better than what we've got right now, because like the bar is so low, people are tripping over it.
Yeah, people will take friggin' Stéphane Dion at this point.
Gee. Give me Paul Martin. I don't care.
Please, anybody over this. So Jagmeet Singh came out with a tweet, and Trudeau, and he quoted Trudeau, his exact words said, Trudeau says he should have and could have moved faster on housing. And Jagmeet's tweet says, should have, could have, but didn't. Those who created this mess can't be trusted to fix it.
So I find that really rich because I'm just like, bro, this is your coalition partner here. Like, what a snake. Like, to be quite honest, like, on one hand, I'm like, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Calling out Trudeau is correct. But on the other hand, this is supposed to be your boy. This is supposed to be your buddy. You guys are working together to form government. And
you've allowed it to happen.
Yeah, you've thrown him under the bus directly on your account. Like, and we got the sad Trudeau looking down and the spotted black and white. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like somebody got artsy with that. You know, they listened to their Simple Plan and did that up. But I just like, what a snake. Because like you can't play both sides. And that's exactly what he does. So I wouldn't trust him as far as you could throw him, honestly.
Like, just because you're a different color doesn't mean anything. Like you've propped his government up. You allowed him to do or not do anything. So anything you say about Trudeau, Jagmeet, it comes on you too.
Yeah,
it's you as well.
Yeah, because there's been many points with budget hearings and different things that could have easily said, you know what, I've lost faith in this government's ability to act on real issues, which is what you're saying right here with this. You're saying, I don't think that this government has done a good job with housing, and I don't think that they can. I think that they've literally made a mess. He said those who created the mess can't be trusted. So you've said you don't have trust, you don't have confidence in our government, but yet when it comes to a non-confidence vote, you vote every time to keep him in power because it keeps you in power. So it's like, who's the real orchestrator of the mess?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like if we go upstream, it seems like you're kind of holding this ship together. You hold a lot of responsibility.
Totally. I mean, I shift our focus to south of the border with what's going on in Congress. And the House Speaker McCarthy, who's a Republican, is kind of seen as a rhino, Republican in name only. And you have about a handful of Congress members who are Republicans, but are like Trump Republicans. And they've been really like holding the Speaker of the House's feet to the fire, trying to get him to actually pass real resolutions. Because the joke, that it's not really a joke. It just tends to be reality that it gets tossed around. An idea or a phrase gets thrown around a lot in right hand circles in the States is that Republicans are just Democrats going the speed limit. And you're just getting the same thing with Republicans than you are with Democrats, unless you actually get someone into politics who actually wants to make a difference. And you've had Matt Gaetz, who is now officially holding up Congress at the moment because McCarthy isn't sticking to his word with what he promised he was going to do. So now Gaetz with a handful of other Congress people are just like holding up Congress, period. Because people in power are not holding to their promises. Mm-hmm. Jagmeet, you could have done something somewhere up here. You had all the power. If you really cared about affordable housing, you wouldn't have allowed certain bills to pass unless they had a provision in there with how to fix affordable housing.
Yeah.
But you kept it silent, keep it moving along here.
Yeah. Well, even when you think about the most recent promises and bills and changes that went through about removing the tax for rentals, like why wasn't Jagmeet saying, are we thinking about just the corporate entities who have rentals, or are we thinking about the average homeowner, like who wants to build a house and that will actually create supply? Like, why wasn't that a question? If you're for the people, like the people aren't primarily owning multi-million-dollar rental organizations who have the money to spend on multi-million-dollar high rises that they rent out. Like that's not your target audience. Like you're supposed to be quote unquote for the people. You're supposed to be the farthest left that there is. And that would mean the average person. And so if you're so for the people, why aren't you pushing for the people in these different laws that are coming out? Because you do hold the keys. You could literally say to Trudeau, like, listen, either put this provision in or we don't back you anymore. And then the Liberal government has to acquiesce to that because they don't want to lose power just as much as he doesn't want to get out of office. So it's like, you know.
And now's the time to do it too, especially as the Liberals are tanking in the polls right now. Like that, like he even holds more leverage on the current government to do stuff. Or we call an election tomorrow.
Yeah.
And both those jabronis are gone.
Yeah.
The minute that happens. So like dude, like if you actually care about people, if you actually claim to care about people, like you say you do, then use all the tools at your disposal to leverage yourself and get some stuff done for the people.
Mm-hmm.
But this was never about the people. It was always about you, your money, and the people that back you.
Yep.
You're no different than the people that you criticize.
Yep. It's just tone deaf is what it is. And it's just, again, it's like I always toss up and I was like, who do I dislike more, Jagmeet or Trudeau?
Tough one to say. It's funny enough. I think, that's a tough one. But I think mainly, I think Jagmeet really ticks me off the most.
Yeah.
Because he's so disingenuous. You know, it's one thing to, you know, I'm okay with people just telling me straight up who they are, and we can roll with that. It is what it is. But people who continue to say, yeah, I love everybody. I want everyone to prosper, and everything you do in your actions shows the opposite of that. I just don't have time for you, man. You're wasting my time. So, speaking of putting everyone broke, Canada providing Ukraine $650 million for armored vehicles and a new pledge of support.
I know. Like,
what are your thoughts?
Oh, I just think it's like so tone deaf. It's a week after we get the new inflation numbers saying that inflation is at 4%, and everybody going, no.
Yeah.
Because like it just means that they're going to increase the interest rates. We all know that is what's coming. And I'm just looking at it going like, I'm going to be okay. It's going to hurt. I'm going to be okay. But there's a lot of people who are not going to be okay. And it just like, it keeps bringing me back to the conversation I had at lunch about like homelessness, food insecurity, like drugs and addiction. Like you see, and then the after effects of all that is death. Like you see more people pass away due to suicide and due to drugs of abuse and all these other causes when you have an economic crisis than at any other point. And we're creating an economic crisis. And I think it was Daniel, I don't know how to say his last name, Foch.
I'd say Fogg.
Yeah. Do you know? But anyway, yeah, he was saying, he's like, okay, Canada's finally like, we've hit the recession now. And he's like, by all the metrics, he's like, we've hit recession. And it's like, holy crap. Like, I just think about the poor nonprofit sector that's just like trying to do everything they can. They're up all hours a day, like paid too little, like just trying to keep society together. And like, this is just going to make their life so much harder. And then the people who they actually serve are just going to be like in despair. And like to see that and just like that angers me because I'm like, I get it that they're in the midst of a war, but where does the responsibility end? Like, I think it was like Poland that pulled out because they were upset over grain issues, and they're right next to Ukraine. There's a couple other countries that have like stopped funding it, and it's like, it's an atrocity. I get it. What has happened with Ukraine and Russia, like nobody likes what's happened there. But at the same time, you can't starve your own people to try and keep that war going. Like at some point, it has to end. And it's like, and what happens if you just keep funding it at the expense of your own people and your neighbors and your communities? Like, then you've got a massive crisis in your own backyard. And it's like, how's that a good way to go?
I agree. It is disheartening. I think the funny thing is, oh man, I'm spacing the jabroni's name on TikTok who had the audacity to put out that video about how the carbon tax only makes up 0.15% of the inflation numbers. And then a week after he had released that video, the numbers come out of how petroleum was added to inflation.
I know.
And we were able to update those inflation numbers based on what the carbon tax has been doing. And that guy's been very quiet since.
Oh, yeah.
It's been crickets over there. And then this happens with a pledge to Ukraine for an additional $650 million. In addition to everything else we've given them at this point, which is well over, I think we're getting close to like $2 billion we sent over there.
Well, didn't it say 9.5 billion since the beginning of 2022?
Gee, sorry, you're right. Gee, I was given the benefit of the doubt on that one. I really was trying, I'm still trying to be your guy. Why am I doing that? No, $9.5 billion since the beginning of 2022 that we've given to Ukraine. That's crazy.
$9.5 billion in just like a year and almost 2 years. Like,
Yeah.
it's insane. Do you realize what that could go to for supports for the country? Like $9.5 billion. Like, how many homes could that build? How much food could that buy? How much energy could that supply? How many green energy projects could that fund? Like, you know what I mean? Like, give it to the people who are on the ground doing the work. Don't pass it out to consultants, and don't pass it out to big corporations with large promises like the Volkswagens of the world. Like, put it to the community level organizations. They know how to stretch a dollar. Like, yeah. Do you know what, like, 9.5 billion, what that could do for this country? And we're just pledging more. Like,
yeah. And that's kind of where we're at, right? You said yourself, we have, what is it now? It's $9.5 billion that we've given out. I lost my train of thought.
Another 650 million that we're going to send out. So that's going to be, what is it? 10 point.
It takes us to 10.1.
Yeah.
And you said it yourself, where interest rates are now going to go up because of this stuff.
Yep.
And as you said, we're going to feel, people like ourselves will feel the pinch. It's going to hurt us, but it simply just is going to hurt us. It's not going to end us.
Yeah.
And that's, as you said, I think it's a really important point. A little bit of sunny days on top of this, a little bit, not much. But this stuff's been driving me not wild, seeing what's the type of food insecurity this stuff's been leading us to. Mm-hmm. And we'll be making it official in a few weeks. But there is a project I have working on the side right now to address some of those needs in our community, because I just can't continue going on watching this go on anymore the way it has been. I got to do something about it. Mm-hmm. And so I have been teaming up with a couple people in the community, or a couple organizations in the community. We're going to try and address this. And so I'm excited. Now we announced that in a few weeks, but enough's enough, man. This is freaking ridiculous.
Yeah. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. It's funny that you mentioned the carbon tax, because I want to throw just a little bit of humor in there.
Let's go humor.
So I had an interesting conversation with the CRA this morning. So I managed to ask them, because I was looking up the climate action initiative, or what do they call that? The climate action incentive that they give out. And I wanted to know why the amount was different in different provinces. Because if the CAIP is something that's supposed to be divvied out to Canadians far and wide to make their lives better, to combat the rising costs of everything, and give them back some of the money that they've collected from the carbon tax, which you'll remember most people are like, oh, but the incentives that they give back far exceed the amount that are collected by a carbon tax. I was like, that's BS.
He called me a Democrat.
Yep. Anyway, so I was just like, so I asked them, I said, hi, I'm looking to understand why there are different amounts given to residents of different provinces. I said, an example, a person in Nova Scotia will receive $496, where an individual in Ontario will only receive $488. Sorry, Ontario. And I said, actually, Alberta is even higher. 772 per individual is what they'll get per year from this initiative. And then I even said, and they have some of the lowest price fuel in the country. So what's going on? He goes, sorry, this question is out of my scope. I can answer other questions if you have them. I said, can you connect me to somebody who does have the answer to this question? Unfortunately, it's not a question our agents can answer. We can only answer questions like the amount that you can expect and when you can expect it. It's like, so there is no one who can answer this question. Unfortunately, no one in the CRA can answer this.
Dang. And I was joking. We said in our text, and that was my response to this, is the PR people that train the Trudeau government really go through all the government workers, and because that's straight out of a PR textbook right there.
Like, I just thought that was wild. It was not like, I don't know at this time, but we can get the answer for you, or this is a person to contact if you have concerns about this. Like, no one. Anybody at the CRA? Unfortunately, no one. Really.
It's about how I feel with this leadership in general. There's no one who can lead it.
Yeah, that's the title of this episode. No one knows what's going on, apparently. Like,
We're being led by literal children.
yeah.
Gee, well, that's wild, dude. I guess we'll end on this note here. Big story coming out of the G20 last week.
What's the G20?
It's getting official here, boys. All the conspiracy theories are coming true. Gee, screw off all these pop-ups. So it's official that the G20 leaders have agreed to build infrastructure for digital currencies and IDs. And the critics fear governments may use them to monitor spending and silence dissent. The EU proposes UN regulate AI and for digital public infrastructure to be trusted and to pair. What is that word?
Interoperable?
Interoperable and open to all. So the big G20, 20 big countries, some of the wealthiest, quote unquote, countries in the world got together and they said, we're going with the digital IDs, homies. Coming to a city near you.
I love that they held it in New Delhi.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, I know you're a BRICS country, but you're still part of the G20. Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it makes sense. I get that. It's just kind of funny.
And the other part of it too, I'm just like, Canada and India aren't exactly friends right now. So,
No. We got some assassination attempts going on. Maybe. I don't know. Lots of accusations being flown around.
Right.
Interesting.
It just sucks because I have some friends who are Indian and they're like, and Indian dating a Canadian, and wanting to like bring their partner over to like meet family and stuff like that because they've been pretty serious, and just going, I don't know if this is possible anymore. Like, I don't know what is going on with our government and then the Indian government. Like, it's a mess and it's affecting our lives, like personally.
Yeah.
And like talking about like their parents and like, what does that mean for them? Like, it's kind of a mess.
Yeah. Good job, Trudeau. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leave it to him solely. It's literally him who's caused such tension between Canada and India. And it started in the first year that he was prime minister.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you show up in wedding garb
for a business meeting.
Yeah.
What a loser.
I just loved when all the photos circulated of him in blackface, like going as Aladdin. Like, it's like,
iconic.
Oh man, this is our prime minister. Like, I get it. Different times, people, did different things, but it was one thing for that photo to come up. We can all laugh about it and say, okay, yeah, people didn't know better, whatever. But then to do it again, just without the face makeup, it's just like, okay.
Guess we didn't learn our lesson.
You
here.
just like playing dress up is what it is.
I mean, he has a flair for theatrics. Came across, I think it was CTV, did an interview with him. I can't remember who the journalist was, but she was like, yeah, I remember when I interviewed you when you were, 18 years old, 16 years old, whatever it was. And like showed the stuff, like how he's dressed. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is who ended up leading our country.
To be fair, like, we all dressed weird in
our
teens.
We did not.
But my favorite thing is when they had the interview of him showing how he fake falls down the stairs.
Oh yeah, that was a funny one. That was like,
oh man,
all that stuff that came out in his initial. But yeah, I was like, oh, this guy like had like a vest, no shirt on, just walking around in jean shorts up to his mid thigh, and I was like, ugh. Like, I wish I didn't see that today.
Yeah.
Disgusting, man. Disgusting. But on fun news, wild card news. Sorry, you got something to say before?
No, I don't. No, I'm good.
So it's official, dog. I think it's official. Looks like Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are a couple.
Oh my God. That's the wild card news.
Dude, I didn't believe any of this for a second. I thought it was just like, I thought just media was just buying into it just to hype something up. And, Jason and Travis Kelce are doing all these interviews and there's like, just humming and hawing around it. I was like, yeah, there's no way. This girl's way too popular, and she's like she's getting to the level, like if not, she's already on the level of like a Michael Jackson type popularity, where people are like fainting when they see her and crap. But I'm like, there's no way she's getting involved with an NFL player. It's just not happening. And then what happens? I'm watching the Kansas City game yesterday, and there she is sitting next to his mom up in the press box. I was like, okay, well, maybe she's just watching the game. And then he scores, and she loses her mind. She chest bumps the guy next to her and starts going, let's freaking go. Starts pounding on the glass. I was like, this looks like it might be a thing. Here we are. Bye-bye.
You are a white girl in disguise.
Dude, yeah. Get over it.
You're a Swiftie. You're watching The Summer I Turned Pretty.
Yo,
I love it.
I did turn pretty, dog. Let's go.
Oh man, I'm not even touching that one. We had a dinner where we had both the wives together and us, and we talked about this and tried to identify who was on what side for what team.
Yeah, dude. Straight up.
Anything can be a sport if you try hard enough.
It's true, man. It's true. Even ball hockey. Bunch of losers who play ball hockey, you know.
Are you one of those?
100% I am. It's more so funny to watch the guys who like take ball, like who actually play competitive ball hockey. Those games are hilarious to watch because those guys get wicked competitive. Yeah. And like they got the soccer shin pads on. They play on a full rink, and they just get in each other's faces, yelling. I was like, bro, you're playing ball hockey, dude. Chill out.
Have you seen competitive tag?
No.
Yeah.
I've seen competitive balloon hitting though. Those are fun to watch.
Yeah, there's competitive tag right now. I forget where I was, but they had it up on the screens. I think it was at a sports bar actually.
TSN 13.
Yeah. But they had it up on the sports bar, and one of the guys I was with, he was like, "Yo," he's like, "See that?" He's like, "Team Canada's like really falling behind." And I'm just like, "What?" I was like, "What do you mean they're falling behind? What are we talking about?" And look over, it's competitive tag. He's like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "They're not as fast. These guys, they're shifty."
Oh, he's talking about the Chinese people. Gee, what a racist.
Oh no, he was. I forget what team it was. It was some Eastern European team.
Of course it was. These guys are crazy.
But yeah, they're wild. And I was like, looking at this, I was like, I can't believe this is actually airing on the sports network right now. And then the other half of me was like, I want to get into competitive tag.
Oh, have you seen the 5-on-5 UFC like MMA?
No, I haven't.
Those are fun. Those are in Eastern Europe too. Hilarious. These guys in this big octagon. It's just 5-on-5. This guys beating on each other. There's like 3 guys on one guy, and like it's just hilarious. So I'm like, this looks brutal. Those are fun to watch too. But
like you said, anything can be a sport. Apparently, even politics. So,
yeah, baby. Well,
it's just a sport I don't like watching right now.
Yeah, no, dude, it's a sport that got a little too serious for me, and it's now too real after what happened. So I hate everybody.
Yeah.
And on that note, Blue Jays got the night off, but tonight, the people who are listening to this, tonight, we're back in action against the Yankees at home. We just need 3 more wins, and we're in the playoffs, baby.
Well, I mean, you got your hat on right now, so you're good to go.
Yeah, dog. I'm excited. Y'all be excited. So whatever it is you're doing, whether you be watching the Blue Jays game
or trying to ignore politics
or fighting the fascists, whatever it is you're doing, wherever you are, we love you. We're out. Peace.